All right, hello everybody. This is Chris Geraghty, Ryan McCloud sitting right there. This is the Delusional Fan Podcast with Geraghty and McCloud. We want to thank you folks for joining us today, the tens of you that are out there listening to our podcast. Right. What I want to do is we'll give you a quick background on why we're doing this. Ryan and I, obviously friends. We met last year working for the same company. Went out and had share a few teams together that we like. There's also a couple teams that we oppose on. Bears and Packers are one of the major ones. So our conversations always turned fun and I think educational. We're both avid sports watchers, and I'd like to think we both know what we're talking about, me a little more than you. But
right.
So we thought we'd start this talk show so that all of our friends that also have opposing views and like views could listen to this and watch us and see what they think. Little background on myself. I have been in the sports and entertainment business for about 15 years now. I've been a commentator and an announcer for mostly combat sports, so mixed martial arts, kickboxing, boxing, things like that. A few shows on TV, CBS Sports, Comcast, things like that. But this is my first foray into the
podcast,
videocast,
right.
Talk show, things like that, and I'm very excited to get this started, especially because even though I pretend I'm not, I'm just as delusional a fan as everybody else.
Well, at least you can admit it. First step.
I don't know, tell everybody who you are, why you're doing this.
Yeah, man. Again, it's. I think this has been a long time coming. I think we've talked about this ad nauseum, and it's been about a year since I moved up here from the northwest suburbs of Chicago, the beautiful town of Cary, Illinois. Shout out to all my Cary people.
Not Chicago.
Right. Just the burbs. But growing up in or around Chicago, I should say, avid Bulls fan, a Cubs fan, only Cubs fan in my family. I'm the lone wolf there.
They're Sox fans, right?
They're all Sox fans except for me. So right, well, give them a break. They can't be perfect. And good segue into being perfect. Avid Packers fan, diehard Packers fan, and perfect. So that's a little joke. I don't think we're perfect, but look, I'm excited. I think this is going to be cool. And like to touch on what you said, piggyback off that, we have an interesting dynamic with you being here most of the time, being a diehard Bears fan, and me being in Illinois and being an avid Packers fan. That's where our conflict comes from, and it'll be fun to showcase that.
Yeah, and for those watching the video podcast, these you can see behind us. These are all ours, so you can tell we're a little bit nutso.
So Chris Geraghty, ring announcer, DDS employee, and interior decorator.
With as many jerseys as humanly possible. What we're going to talk about in today's show, we've got 4 topics we're going to go over with everybody. Number 1, we want to talk about the draft. The draft just happened.
Right.
We're mostly going to focus on Bears Packers. We can go into a little bit else, what we think, maybe grades for some of the other teams that are out there.
Tunsil stuff, man. What a draft.
That was fantastic.
Honestly, it was most exciting draft I've ever watched.
Awesome. I fell asleep. Right after the first Tunsil thing,
and Geraghty
woke up. Well, my Bears pick, so I was like,
right. I know what you mean.
Good,
right? Yeah. After 27,
Right. But we'll get into the draft a little bit. We're also going to talk a little bit about PEDs today. One of our favorite pitchers and the best pitcher in the game right now, Arrieta. Some of the players came out questioning.
Some of the stats I got are stupid.
I know they're dumb. They're video game stats.
Video games, you can't do that. But yeah.
Our top 5 this week is going to be what could have been through the NBA, which Ryan's our NBA expert here. So I look forward to seeing what your top 5 is actually going to be.
Me too.
And then of course we're going to end out the show with our prediction, sure to go wrong. So let's get right into it. Bears Packers draft. Yep. Packers had a late pick. How late were they this time?
They were 27th pick.
So 27. They had a pretty late pick this time. They actually made a move in front of the Bears, which I'm sure you're going to talk about. I want to know your opinion on that.
Absolutely.
So what do you think about the Packers draft?
So, look, I think in both Bears and Packers, I thought they were solid. The Packers had a good draft. They addressed a ton of needs.
Yeah.
I think when we were talking about this last week, I was kind of going into how the Packers were clearly trying to fill the hole with Geraghty leaving. They addressed that with their first pick. And I didn't think Kenny Clark would fall to us. I didn't think he would. So I didn't pay as much attention to him. The stuff that I've looked at recently since we drafted him, he's a beast, man. And I'm excited for him to be there. Again, I was okay if they went defensive tackle. I wanted them to go get an inside linebacker. With McCarthy wants Clay to be on the outside and full time, and let's get somebody there so he doesn't have to split time at two positions. And so,
well, if I want to interrupt you real quick here,
sure.
The Raji shoes are pretty big shoes to fill. Maybe not last year as much.
Really, the last few years, and that's why I was more high on an inside linebacker. And that's a good point. Again, we haven't had the 2010, 2011 BJ Raji since 2010 and 2011. Of course he had the injury last year, and that set him back a little bit. Of course, he fits that defensive scheme perfectly. Clogs the holes and helps stop the run. So
let me ask you this about Raji and about the first pick. How important do you think run stoppers are, especially in the North now? Because if you really think about it, there's one running team left in the North. That's it.
Yeah, Minnesota.
It's Minnesota, right? Forte's gone, and the Bears didn't even run up the middle with him anyways. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Lions, even though
they're not a power running team.
They're not a power running team either.
Right.
They've got Stafford who likes to sling the ball. Bears have Cutler who like to sling the ball. Right. Vikings are the only team that really run, so how important is even the nose guard right now in the division?
Sure, and that's actually a really good point. I actually think that's a great point.
And that's I brought it up because you said linebackers.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing in my head that I thought the Packers should have gone for is just take as many linebackers as you can.
And going back to how crazy this draft was, how crazy was it that right before the draft, I told you last week who I wanted, Reggie Ragland. I wanted us to go up and get him. And you're talking about a top 10, top 15 pick.
Dropped.
Well, he has a heart condition apparently, and so he drops all the way down. We clearly could have taken him. He didn't get taken until close to the end of the second round.
Yeah.
And so, look, again, what it always comes down to for me, and I know you hate this phrase, but in Ted we trust. I trust his moves. We had 9 picks. They traded around, especially the one, and going into that, I love that we did that. Not just to steal it from the Bears. That was a good move to do that. He's a good player, Spriggs. So I love that move though, again, it's kind of contradictory. It's kind of revisionist history of me to do this, but last week I was telling you the offensive line. We don't need to worry about that until next year. But
why don't you? You do need to.
But and again, that was
you have no depth at your offensive line, or you didn't.
But we have holes to fill elsewhere, and that's kind of where I was going. I want us to bulk up that defense, so I wasn't thinking offensive line. I told you that I think the Packers are going to be fine on offense this year, kind of revert back to what we've seen recently, minus last year.
I think if they stay healthy on offensive line, you're right. The problem is and what it showed last year was they weren't healthy at all until they actually got into the playoffs. But I think at that point they hadn't really built up that momentum that gets them going.
All that,
and they kind of blew it in the playoffs. But the biggest need, in my opinion, for the Packers was linebackers. They filled it with a few spots, but
and they got the dude out of Utah State. What is it? Fackrell?
Yeah.
Fackrell?
Again, guys, the draft was super deep with linebackers this year. Bears even just signed another linebacker today, a free agent linebacker today.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so many.
That kid could be a beast too. And again, it's an undrafted free agent. So we'll see. But that's the beauty of the draft, man. And what do you think of the Bears?
Well, first, give me your best pick. I want to know your best pick. Tell me who is your best value pick. Is it your number one pick
of our draft?
Packers draft
of the Packers draft.
Who is gonna not only start next year, but they're gonna be like, I'm glad we made this pick.
It's what I would have to go with Spriggs.
Okay.
I would have to go with Spriggs.
Why?
Just cause you look at some of the film on him and some of the tape on him. 4-year starter.
Yeah.
Didn't miss games. Consistent.
4-year starter is huge. I'm going to talk about that too with the Bears offensive lineman they picked too. That I agree with you. I was going to bring that up. The nice thing about him is he played.
Yeah.
Because your best asset is just being available.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
That's where, again, I thought your offensive line had issues last year. So.
Right, and again, they didn't draft for offensive line for the future last year. They didn't take one offensive lineman last year, and so they paid for it.
Yeah.
And so I think they'll turn it around this year, and I like the picks that we had.
Bears-wise, Leonard Floyd, the first pick, he's a Kyle Long pick to me. Everybody, he's not high risk. He's low risk, but he's big reward.
Mm-hmm.
So some people said the Bears might have reached by giving away a fourth rounder. That doesn't make. Who cares?
Right.
You know what I mean? Fourth rounder's a crapshoot, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the guy you want, that's the guy you want. And the one thing I could say about the tape is positive, but still inconclusive on him. So I'm not in love with the first pick. I like it because, again, he's got that Kyle Long upside. He's an athletic, fast guy. The issue that's going to be with him, especially in the defense and where they want to put him as an outside, somebody who rushes the passer, is they're not sure he can hold his weight.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's a guy that is so high energy and works so hard that they're thinking he's going to have to struggle to put the weight on and keep it on.
Here's the thing. With the Bears, I feel like they've done this so often in the past where they've kind of made a move where you're like, huh? And it hasn't panned out. And I think that's where some of the anxiety comes from for Bears fans. But I like the pick. I don't want to play against it.
And the way you say in Ted we trust, I'm gonna go in Ryan Pace we trust.
You have to.
Well, and Pace put together one of the great defenses in with the Saints. They won a Super Bowl with that defense. Right. Now, granted, they also got a lot of trouble with
getting contracts on heads, but
right. Sure. But I think he knows the guys he needs on defense, and the Bears had a definitely defensive-centric draft, which they needed. One of the things that pissed me off the most last year about the Bears is as much crap as people give Jay Cutler. He gave the Bears a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and the defense couldn't hold it in the final couple minutes.
Okay.
The Bears could have made the playoffs. They could have competed for the division if the defense would have just held. Now, it wasn't as bad as 2 years ago, but it was still bad.
Right.
So the guard we got, Cody Whitehair, that's the one. So the Bears were going to go after the pick the Packers got instead. Pick Whitehair. Whitehair, I wanted to bring him up because, again, started 51 of 52 games at Kansas State. It's monster.
Yeah.
For an offensive line.
Right. Yeah.
He's there. He's in the system. He knows it.
He played.
Right. He played. And again, what this is then going to allow the Bears to do, it's going to keep Kyle Long at guard where he should be.
Yeah, that's huge.
You're also going to be able. The one move I don't love is they're thinking about moving Massey over to left tackle, which he's an okay right tackle. He was an okay right tackle with the Cardinals, but he struggled at times. Mm-hmm. And so I'm worried about Cutler's blind side, and they really haven't signed anybody in the offseason that's going to take that left tackle spot. So I still have a little apprehension on the offensive line. I wish they maybe would have went after a tackle.
Yeah.
But you know what? Our guards are going to be solid. Our center is solid, and I'm okay with that for now.
Yeah,
it's all you can do. And again, I like the pick.
You guys did pick up a wide receiver, right?
We did. We got one late. I want to talk defensive end though, because here's a guy. I think this because I asked what you thought your steal of the draft was. My steal was the Bullard kid from Florida, the defensive end. Again, we went draft centric or defensive centric on this one.
Yes, you guys did.
He had 6.5 sacks last year, 17.5 tackles for a loss, 66 overall tackles on a bad Florida team.
Right. So
I like him when you match him up with Goldman and Hicks and now Floyd and Pernell McPhee, Lamar Houston, who's been a beast since he's come to the Bears.
Kind of a dick.
We can talk about that. Not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, but who outside of Green Bay is?
I don't. Right.
But I like the kid. He, in my opinion, is the steal of the draft. The other guys we were talking about, and this is a guy who I know you liked because we spoke about him a little bit last week, was Kwiatkowski from West Virginia, that linebacker.
Yeah, yep.
They say he's all upside, and they got him at 113th.
I think I was talking about that last week, and you guys went and got him. I think that would be the steal for you guys.
I mean, the thing about him is I thought he was undersized. He's only 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's an inside linebacker, which I guess you don't have to be too big, really he's run stopper a little bit across the middle. I thought his speed at the combine was okay. It wasn't great, but they were good numbers, so we'll see. Everybody always wants to compare white inside linebackers to somebody like a Brian Urlacher. Mm-hmm. Not obviously saying he's going to be anything like that, but that's what you hope. You get a little bit of that.
You don't need him to be Brian Urlacher.
But we don't, and we don't even need him to start with who we picked up in the offseason this year. So I'm good with that. Of course, we went safety, which Bears just released Antrell Roll. Mm-hmm. They also released Slauson. I don't know if you heard that too.
I don't believe I did.
Slauson's gone, so they picked up a guard, got rid of Slauson. They picked up a couple of safeties, so now Antrell Roll's gone too.
I mean,
and then he came out and bashed the
you
Bears.
You needed an upgrade there anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he only played 8 games last year, so.
Right.
DeAndre Hall, cornerback, Jordan Howard, that running back from Indiana. I like that kid, little scat back, which it looks like that's what kind of the Bears are going for, because they've got Jaquiz Rogers. They've got Jordan Howard. They've got now I'm forgetting his name. Our back is going to take over for Forte.
And see, now you're making me draw a blank.
Okay, anyways.
We got a computer. We can look it up.
We'll look it up.
We'll get the stats.
It's another little scat back I like. The wide receiver we got is the guy that they're comparing to like a Wes Welker style, an inside slot receiver.
Yep.
That Braverman guy, he's from Western Michigan. I wanted to look at his stats here because he's only 5'10", but in 2015 he had 108 catches and 13 touchdowns. Now again, it's Western Michigan. It's not the highest talent in the world, but he obviously can catch the ball. Must be.
He's productive.
He's productive.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Production is good. I think they called him Edelman 2.0.
Gotta love the comparisons, right?
Who knows?
Yeah,
right. But I don't hate the pick. It's round 7
overall.
I like our wide receivers anyways.
Yeah, right.
So
overall optimistic.
Yeah. Other than that, I think our draft is kind of in that B to B minus range. I think we did a good job. Mm-hmm. Even if our first pick is a slight reach, again, there's so much upside there.
Yeah, and that would be a delusional fan would be knocking them for making that move. It was a 4th round pick. They went up there and got him. They got the guy they wanted. That's who they wanted.
And for a 4th rounder.
That's right.
I don't care.
Right. Who really cares? And and again, you got to trust in your GM. So, and just because you brought it up, we drafted the wide receiver out of Cal, Trevor Davis. That guy will be starting in a few years.
You guys always.
That's what I'm saying. We draft a receiver every year, and he always right. So, yes, I think the best part of the draft is we got hope, man. Everybody's got hope at this point.
So, are you going to call Cobb a bust if Jordy's not back to his number 1 form? Because obviously Cobb can't hold together.
We'll see, man. Everybody who slacked last year. I mean, you've seen this stuff about Devontae Adams, right?
Yeah.
He's like, they're thinking he might not even make the roster, right? Everybody's got to progress here, man. Everybody's got to take that step up. Honestly, and I know you have your views on Aaron. He's been saying that for years now, though. Everybody he's cocky, he's arrogant. I would totally agree with that. But he's just asking to come up to his level. He's one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen.
Does Rodgers do those off-season mini camps at all, like where he brings all the receivers?
I don't think he's not like the Drew Brees rah-rah guy. And whether that's a good or bad thing, well, what does Jay Cutler do that?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
he's doing it in Nashville right now.
Is it producing anything? Is this the first year he's done it then, or?
Actually, it might be.
So let's see how.
Hey, but he's doing it. Hey, he's doing it. Better later.
Yeah, there we go. New Orleans Saints 2.0. There we go.
All right. So overall, I think we're both pretty happy with the draft.
Yes.
Obviously, it all plays out as the regular season gets on.
Right. So. Yep. And years from now too. So.
Right. And the defense is important for the Bears. They need to improve on defense, or they're not going to compete against Vikings or the Packers for the division, in my opinion. Packers have a team to make the playoffs. They just didn't really have the team to make it through the playoffs, and that was their issue. I thought they had a better team 2 years ago.
They clearly had a better team 2 years ago.
And just choked it away. So there's who knows where you're going to go with it. So, all right, when we come back, we're going to talk about PEDs, Jake Arrieta. God, I hate even saying sentence, but that's kind of what brought up the topic. So.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen A.
Yeah, but we'll be right back.